Hark, O mortals! Throughout the ages of the world called Ryxia, the potency and prevalence of magic has waxed and waned. Empires, monsters, and discovery all have risen and fallen alongside it. But throughout those ages, great heroes and villains have remained. More than 200 years ago, an immortal and tyrannical group of sorceress warlords known as the Pentarchy were at the height of their power. The fall of their empire seemed impossible until the fall of something else, one of Ryxia's twin sons. This celestial catastrophe destroyed the Pentarchy's capital and brought with it the scourge of the Ultragiants. These colossal titans emerged into this world mysteriously, bringing with them decades of ice and flame. Where they walked, disaster followed, destroying the great cities of mortals across the globe. Residents of nomad tribes and citadels alike sought shelter in what hidden corners of the world they could find. That is, until the Ultragiants disappeared, seemingly as mysteriously and suddenly as they came. And societies emerged, reclaiming old traditions and founding new ones. They found a world both similar and different than the one they retreated from, filled with new dangers, landscapes, and power structures. And in the sky, they found the twin suns restored. Now, our heroes are among the first generation of mortals born into this new old world. While livable, the areas outside of well-guarded cities are largely still dangerous and filled with unnaturally powerful, supernatural phenomena, monsters, and worse. This heroic quartet is a recently hired batch of professional adventurers and problem solvers for the Golden Tree, an ancient and recently revitalized adventuring guild. For some, confronting the weird is the best way to get the answers they seek, or prove what needs proving. But all do whatever it takes to get the job done, because they know no one else can or will. Few choose this life, but if they are strong enough, brave enough, and lucky enough, those heroic or greedy few can enrich themselves beyond their wildest dreams. Welcome to the world of reckless attack. Hi there, listeners. My name is Nathan Lurs, and I am the peerless, fearless Dungeon Master of the Dungeons & Dragons homebrew 5th edition podcast, Reckless Attack. We are just a group of diverse friends here in Chicago who loved playing our home game so much that we decided to start a whole new one and share it with you guys. We plan to have a game with a healthy mix of wilderness exploration, monster of the week, character downtime, a big overarching plot, all the good stuff that you want in your D&D game. I will formally introduce you all to our intrepid adventurers and radiant players here in just a minute, but if you are a listener who isn't familiar with tabletop role-playing games, or wants to know more about the ins and outs of each character, or to know what house rules we're using, or just, wants to hear us do more japes and such before getting into the meat and potatoes of our episodes, I encourage you to listen to our trailer if you haven't already, and our behind-the-screen episodes, which should already be available in your feeds. But that's enough from me, Nathan, the DM. Let's just go around and do a quick, hey, who's who? Starting with the person on my left.
Hi, I'm Sophie, and this will be my 3rd Dungeons & Dragons campaign, and actually that's a lie. I have played one campaign of Pathfinder.
And next to her.
Hello everyone. My name is Jonathan, and Dungeons & Dragons is a great game.
It really is.
Isn't that right?
Isn't it?
Hi everyone, my name's David, and I agree, Dungeons & Dragons is a great game. We as a group have actually been playing for 4 years now.
Surprisingly, we just had our anniversary a couple weeks ago, and I cannot remember when it was because it was so long ago.
Yep, that's all I got.
My name is Steve Horowitz, and I am, I guess, the longest running playing D&D person sitting here.
There's no I guess.
in the
you
world.
have a
That's a-
story.
that's a-
Yeah,
career.
so I've been playing for I think just around 35 years.
Jeez.
I mean,
So I
hate
really-
to say this, but you've been playing D&D longer than everyone
know-
else at the table's been alive.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to
Yeah.
say it,
Yeah.
but that is true, yes.
Yeah. So I am apologizing in advance if I suddenly remember a rule wrong and it's from like second edition.
Yeah, we'll get
Or-
to
Don't
it.
apologize. I appreciate
Yeah,
those
own it.
historic tidbits.
Right.
Let's get into some adventuring, why don't we? We find our party on a blazingly hot summer day, traveling in one of the dozens, if not more, wagons in a now common great caravan on one of the Pentarchy's old runic roads. You guys have already been traveling for many days from your chapter headquarters in the desert scholar city of Rakma. You guys know that the Adventuring Guilder's journey is nearly over, for you are only a few days out from your destination, Agmar, sometimes known as the Red City. This is your first official posting together after many months of training and tutoring, and it represents an opportunity as interesting as it is auspicious, because the vacancy that you guys are in the midst of traveling to fill was made when the last Golden Tree Guilders stationed there never returned from a job outside of the city's red walls. Though the now old protective magic on the runic roads keeps them clear of magical overgrowth and some of the other dangers faced in the wilds, the party acts as part of the caravan's guard while they're kind of among it. Could you please describe your character, what they're doing, how they're passing their time during this particular stretch of a fairly long, fairly dull journey?
So you find Valeska Carter walking right next to the wagon, and she's like walking but leaning on it because in her hand is a book, and she's using the wagon to kind of guide her straight while she can walk and read at the same time. And she would be reading Giant 101, How to Speak the Language of the Ultras, because in any downtime she has, she needs to be reading or working on something new to learn.
Excellent, excellent. David, what about you?
Oh man. Okay. I thought I had a whole other person before this. Kascorin Brightmane is a middle-aged dwarf with a bald head but a long white beard. He has golden spirals that cover him from head to toe, and his extremities are made of stone due to an elemental transformation in his past. He's wearing some light, loose-fitting clothing made for long days in the summer heat, and right now he's sitting up in the front of the caravan, chatting with the wagon driver, cracking jokes, passing the time on this long caravan journey to Agmar.
So on the wagon that we are kind of a part of, perched on the back of it and keeping an eye out just in general, is a very tall silver dragonborn. His name is Selv Asterlin. His scales are kind of like a mixture of silver and white. His hair is also kind of a mixture of silver and white, and he actually does have a tail. He is wearing the gi from his monastery, which is a mixture of red and gold, and he has his staff set in front of him crosswise. He's just looking around, and periodically throughout the day, as kind of word has spread that there is a dragonborn, there are children that approach, and they come up at first rather shyly, and then they kind of scream out, "Do it again! Do it again!" While Selv has, he projects this calmness. You could see him occasionally sigh and close his eyes, and then he'll turn back around and he'll puff out the side of his mouth a bit of frost. And so there's actually a cold condensation that kind of shows up off the side. Then there's the cheer of, "Yay!" And then they run off. And then a few hours later, come back, "Do it again! Do it again!"
Last but not least, Jonathan, tell me about who you got going
Absolutely.
on.
So let me just set the scene here, because at the table,
I beg of you.
I'm
to.
wearing a costume, and the costume is a large frog hat.
Yes, it is.
Which
it is immaculate. and wonderful.
Which we'll soon find out is sort of the running theme for what's about to happen. So I'm going to break this into two parts because there's two characters, really. At the back of the wagon is a large, maybe 4-foot tall green tree frog with his head just sticking out of the back of the wagon. And you can see every so often this long frog tongue just sort of jumping out and trying to catch the various bugs hanging out around the back of the wagon. And he's just sort of lazily doing that. It's like he's not even trying to actually catch them. He's more just having fun, snapping his tongue out to try and get something.
Doing frog stuff.
And then on top of the wagon, I'm assuming that the trees around the runic road are close enough so that I could... Basically, you see a small, tiny green frog leap out from one of the trees onto the top of the caravan. And this is just a regular little frog. But quickly following behind that is this smallish size blue frog wearing a leather kilt and a large fur cloak. Jump out of the trees and hop onto the top of the wagon and try to snatch the frog from the top of the caravan, missing just barely. Almost had him this time. Wait up, Junior. And the frogs leap off of the top of the caravan into another set of trees, and you just hear a small rustle as they disappear.
And who are we all talking to?
We are talking to the pair of frogs, Checkers, who is the main blue frog, and his frog pal Mango, who is the green tree frog hanging out the back of the wagon.
The larger boy.
The large boy. And Junior, the small green tree frog, hanging out also
Just
on the top.
Russian nesting dolls.
Stackable
Stackable frogs.
Yes. So that is my character.
A froggish Borg.
Guys, if you're not already on board with the campaign, I don't know what to tell you. Like, get it together. So again, sitting next to Kascorin. Oh, it's so weird. Starting a new campaign and having to like remember
different names,
and stuff I'm gonna mess it up for forever. Luckily, I have it all written out. Up in front, driving your wagon, is the Golden Tree Potionsmith, Etris Pensempre. He is a fellow guildmate of yours, and he is absolutely covered in small belts and buckles. He's wearing multiple satchels, kind of Indiana Jones style, but doubled. He has this wild and crazy blonde hair and is still relatively young, actually. And he has a big burn across a portion of his face, but is absolutely always in good humor and smiling as much as humanly possible, essentially. He has been sent with you guys to brew potions, be a researcher, a scholar, and just kind of generally support your adventures as needed. Again, he is there talking with Cass, and they're telling jokes and all that stuff. And he's just, and then you know what he said to him, Cass? Do you know what he said?
What did he say to him, Etris?
Well, I forget, but it was very funny, I assure you. And he takes a big swig out of his
and you hear
one of his potion
from
vials.
behind him just.
Yep, this is you.
From the side of the wagon, you hear Val chuckle a little bit because, like, even though she knows there was probably a good story on there, Etris is pretty cool.
What a jokester!
And another important question that I did not hear in this portion. One of the other things that you picked up in your months of training, other than your potionsmith, was a teeny tiny little donkey, a baby donkey, in fact, who is not pulling your wagon because they are too small. It is, again, a tiny donkey who was rescued from the clutches of some spider people in your last training session in Rakma, and it has these two, notably, it has these two tiny little nubbins growing from its shoulder blades, which will someday maybe be wings or not or whatever. But right now it is just a cute, tiny little donkey baby whom you love.
Alternatively, could be spider legs.
Could be spider legs.
No,
Why did you
get out of here.
It cost you nothing to not say that.
I'm gonna hold on. Please ignore me reaching for my notebook.
We found the donkey specifically in our spider cave with spider
legs.
people. What else could we reasonably expect?
No, tiny nubbins are going to be beautiful wings. You
Our
shush.
precious sweet boy / girl. I'm not sure yet.
Do we know what this? You had homework. Do you know what this donkey's name is, and what they're doing? Where are they? Is someone carrying them? Are they in the wagon?
I forgot they couldn't fly yet, so I was assuming they were flying, but
No.
like with Selv. But
no,
yeah.
I believe we have settled on on a name? Are we going with...
There's a lot of discussion before the recording.
No, I'm good with
We're going with Hody?
Yep.
Okay. So the donkey's name is Hody.
Hody. And is it a boy donkey?
That's a good question.
I think a boy donkey makes sense.
Boy donkey. Hody.
No?
Okay.
I'm just like, girl donkey? Yeah, I feel like we have a lot of boy things. That's true.
Well, that's your fault, though. That's because you are a stack of boy
you count
frogs.
for 3 frogs.
That's
so.
true. Okay, that's fine.
But fair enough.
Okay, so birth gender assigned female, and then the donkey can decide later.
That's true.
Yeah.
I like that. Perfect.
Miss Hody.
Yes. Hody, the donkey who is watching over Hody, because again, she is just a tiny, small, precious child.
Once we rescued Hody from the clutches of the spider people and got back to Rakma, Val would have, before leaving, rushed to her mom and the illustrious Atheum and been like, I have adopted a donkey Pegasus. You must tell me everything you know about taking care of them. And they didn't know anything, but they're researching it and going to send Val a letter.
Some updates.
But they were like, here's how you take care of a donkey. So Val has like a feeding schedule, a whole diet planned out.
Excellent. It's taking her responsibility very seriously.
Yeah.
Are those organic grains?
Absolutely. There's
Only
a
the best
whole
for Hody.
journal of just like a Hody, like what they do in a day. She's taking measurements all the time to see how they're growing.
Yep, making little check marks in her daily schedule of when Hody pooped.
Yep,
you know,
absolutely.
making sure it's good, all the stuff that we all as dog owners know.
There's a lot of descriptions about poop in that journal.
Yeah.
I will say, so as Checkers is seeing this, he's going to sort of look at you, Val, and say, I don't know why you're going through all this effort. I mean, I raised Mango off of a bunch of bugs, and he turned out just fine.
Mango licks his eye, staring at you.
Yeah, just want to be sure.
That seems a bit much to me, but all right, Val, you do you.
Checkers, we've been training together for a couple of months now, and we have very different styles. And I'm going to do my thing, you do your thing. And I'm going to continue to write in this journal
about all of it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Val has like 50 journals.
Right. Yeah,
I also imagine that after any interaction between Valeska and anyone, she goes to her journal and makes notes about the person she just talked to.
You don't know what's in Val's journals.
As this is all happening, up ahead of you guys a little while, you hear a voice call out, pulling over for fresh water. And, kind of up ahead, alongside the runic road, you see a clearing with a small but seemingly pretty clear body of water. You guys have maybe passed a couple of these every once in a while, or streams, that kind of stuff. While most people come provisioned, few people say no to some fresh, cool water, especially on a day as hot as it is. You already see several wagons and walkers that are filing in to and from, using it to refill canteens, cool off, get their animals a little bit of water. Do you guys pull over or use the opportunity to keep things moving, get further up in the caravan, or what do you guys do?
Val would absolutely make sure everything's restocked. She'd probably ask Selv or Cass to help. Mm-hmm. If Checkers is flying by at the time, she would probably ask him too, but I know he's bouncing up and down the trees.
Kascorin would absolutely take every opportunity to take a well-earned break. He needs to stretch his legs, grab a drink, cool off.
And Val would be like, one of us does have to take Hody to the stream for some fresh water.
Kascorin
and then hands you a big old bucket.
I'm imagining like a clipboard that's like the Hody like chore list, and it's like at this time, and it's just all Val. Just every one of them is Val,
except for a few things, which is like, what was the consistency? Selv, go check.
Well, she's a scientist.
Val's not afraid of it. She is very much Laura Dern from Jurassic Park.
Yes.
So full arm in a pile of poop.
Right, and she would, of course, put on a big plastic sleeve ahead of time, but she will do it. Yes, absolutely.
Checkers would like to take this opportunity, now that we're close to clear, fresh water, to refill his giant barrel of water. Essentially, Mango has a giant saddle with a big barrel of water attached to it, and Checkers would, with the help of Mango, bring this barrel up to the water and use one of his cantrips, Shape Water, to shape the water from
the first glimpse of a character class, other than Steve having a bunch of a gi and quarterstaff. Don't worry about it.
So what this looks like is Checkers is sort of squatting next to this pool of water, waving his hands around, and some of the water is almost levitating off of the pool of water and streaming its way into the open barrel.
That's also about when Selv approaches, and he just looks over at Checkers. Cheater. And then dives into the water.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because just as you hit the water, Selv, there is almost an awkward pause where you hear the splash of Selv kind of jumping in, and then a much larger splash. And by splash, I mean more of like a rush of water and some sort of inhuman roar, because from out of the depths of this small little water outcropping emerge a pair of near identical, horrible-looking monsters.
What? What?
Just here for some water, man.
Right.
These large creatures.
I brought Hody!
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't put Hody in danger.
Well, I guess it's hero time. Because these large creatures look, what's the best way to describe them? A little bit like lobsters.
Oh my god.
But lobsters who were spawned from the pits of hell. So they have these small, beady eyes that leer out at you. And beneath those eyes, a mess of tentacles where a mouth should be. Each of them have this thick carapace covering their 11-foot-long body that stretches out to a strange tail. They have strange alien legs that are kind of lifting them up near upright, and these giant pincher claws that are reaching out, not towards you guys necessarily, but towards some other hapless traveler. Before a shout from that person who's being targeted can even escape from their throat, the shadow is upon them. But luckily for this person, there are guilders nearby who are not so easily taken off guard. One of the two takes off past you into the road itself, attacking another group of people. You can already see a couple people reaching for spears and clearly are going to be somehow dealing with this. And you are clearly also faced with this other monster. So here's how we're going to do this. As you guys know, but for the benefit of the listeners, we love a good tactical, by the book, potentially dangerous combat around these parts. But for this one, let's do a little cinematic theater of the mind type encounter for some nice heroic flavor.
I tie up Hody very quick to the nearest tree.
You run to a tree
safety.
line. Yep.
And then I will rush forward at the one who's charging past, cast the cantripped Mind Sliver at it.
What does that look like? What does that feel like? What happens?
Basically, you see this crystalline shard shoot forth from Val's hand, and it darts and it like weaves in and out past to its target and drives like right at the base of where a lobster's skull would be.
Yeah, I get that. Yep.
And it... Do lobsters make noise?
Oh, well, this one certainly does.
Okay.
It's making some very
it lets
bad
out a
clicks,
shriek.
clacks, shrieks, kind of grunts like, ha, ha, ha. I mean, the tentacles are clacking. It's not, none of it's good. It's all bad. So it's cool. It's like Guardians of the Galaxy, like the Yondu arrow thing that's just kind of like flitting around and then just right into the back of the neck.
Yes.
Cool. Who else jumps into action? What do they do?
So Kascorin has been like getting the steel pail. He's got like the shovel. And he's just been next to Hody, shoveling poop. He hears the roar from the lake and just looks back there and just yells, "Mango! Checkers!" and runs towards the two lobsters that have emerged.
Yeah, there's one who's much closer to you, basically.
He's got pail in one hand, and then in his other hand, he raises his arms and, much like Valeska, throws a golden light javelin almost that materializes and just flings its way towards the lobster that's close by, hitting it in the torso and then evaporating.
Cool. So it hits this thing and it reels back again. It was reaching out for whatever this hapless villager is. You've probably even maybe talked to this traveler. You know, they were kind of right, not too far up from you and reaching and clearly about to do something not good to this person, but you slams into them this beam of light and it is taken aback.
Selv,
Underwater.
yes, it kind of it erupts out of the water, and it's like with that look of, well, that was refreshing, and then looking around goes,
Yeah, this has been about 3 seconds for you, and then just you went in, nice and cool and placid water, and you emerge. Oh God! Yeah.
Selv would move towards the lobster-type creature that was threatening any of the caravan regulars, and will, with his staff out, interpose himself in between the lobster creature and any of the civilians. They'll just say, hoping that the lobster will understands and will do it. Retreat now, and I let you go.
This thing again is like trying to get at whatever strange thing that Val just put into its back and is unable to reach it like a weird lobster.
And I am going to have my staff ready to knock any incoming tentacles or claws out of the way.
Excellent. Then it like stops and then looks down at you, undeterred but focused on you. And then what is Mango and Checkers and I suppose Junior? What are they all up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So Checkers would say,
Mango, get back. This isn't your time yet.
and Mango's going to retreat back to the caravan. Checkers is seeing this large lobster thing move towards Selv in an attempt to get at the tasty caravan people behind him. He is in his native element right now, Checkers is, and he's going to begin casting a spell. This is going to be the first level spell, Crashing Waves. He's going to sort of move his arms around. You can see some of the water in front of him begin to sort of roil and collect.
Yeah, cool.
As this lobster is just charging towards Selv, trying to get at him, a huge burst of water erupts from where Checkers is at. It's like this 25-foot wave of water that just crashes into the lobster and knocks it 10 feet away, sort of out of the path of Selv, and it begins just twisting and turning and sort of collapsing onto the ground.
It's definitely has like again turns its attention to Selv and is about to reach out to the Dragonborn and clearly do some damage, even though Selv is resolute,
ready.
Standing to it, and then just slam! Huge thing of water just knocks it 10 feet away from you, Selv.
Told you.
The one who's still at the water's edge, Cass, you can see it certainly got distracted a little bit and looks over towards you and charges up to you and takes this one of its huge claws, not even bothering to try and grab you, just to try and slam down onto the earth right where you're standing.
Kascorin reaches his hand to a nearby boulder at the clearing that we're at, and from the stone pulls out a shield-like shape, molding it to his arm. As the claw comes down, he bashes away the claw with his newly formed stone shield,
Awesome.
and then with the other hand, bashes the lobster across the head with a pail.
Awesome.
Perfect.
It is certainly like it blocks it and then is embroiled in this battle fury rage of just like it's gonna slam and grab and rip and tear, and then you just like smack it in the face with a pail and it's almost like confused because
Is that all you got?
where it's like it was ready to just fucking go and then just like taken aback by you just like slapping in the face, which I'm extremely here for.
With the poop pail.
Exactly. And Selv, you see the one that is kind of by you that was threatening the caravan. You see it pick itself up and walk around and kind of right its feet. And you see some of the other travelers nearby grab pitchforks, grab some short swords, that kind of thing, kind of just start to react at least a little bit towards this. But you see it get itself up and it eyes around looking for the source of this crazy water thing that just beat the shit out of it. What do you do?
Selv keeps himself interposed between it and the majority of the caravan and says, "You can retreat at any time." And then he smacks him a couple times with his staff.
Yeah, just starts
basically like going around the legs and arms, just trying to
the chinks in the armor, basically, of like trying to hit all the places
where
it's
the little openings
joints
are. Yeah, where the joints are. One of those he does thrust out with a quarterstaff, and it actually goes directly into one of those chinks in the carapace and just for a moment, the creature reels back,
Yeah.
and just doesn't, and seems to be like, let's call it stunned. You could tell like it's where Selv hit it, like that arm has kind of locked up, and he's having trouble moving it.
Oh, I love that. Where you like crammed your staff in to a point
and,
where like it can't move because of its strange alien musculature,
Yeah, exactly,
and stuff.
exactly. So the staff seems to be like wedged in there and preventing it from fully moving. If the rest of the caravan wants to take advantage of that, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise,
These people, there are again a lot of families and that kind of stuff, but they have lived in this world long enough to know that they have to react quickly. They're obviously untrained. There's certainly other guards, maybe even some other people who are starting to react kind of behind you guys. But even the people who are close by are throwing rocks and that kind of stuff and are relatively quick to action, especially now that you've kind of clearly opened up something for them. Val, what do? You see both of them. You see Cass is up next to one of them, smacking around with a pail. You see another one is you kind of being like rope-a-doped by Selv. You see a tiny baby donkey tied up behind you. What do you do?
Seeing that Selv and Checkers are kind of tag teaming the one farther away, Val will continue running towards the stream and go to the one up to Cass. And as she's running, she grabs her holy symbol of the illustrious Atheum and then loops it off her neck and smashes her into her palm, and then like drags it across and shoots out this brilliant stream of light that's like this beautiful light blue color, and it, with a ridiculous speed, drives into the side of the lobster that is engaged with Cass, and so she will cast Guiding Bolt.
Awesome. And you see it like blows off a piece of its exoskeletal armor. And you can tell like, ooh, that made a big opening. And Cass, you see this happen too. And you know that like, okay, cool. I might be able to capitalize on that here in just a moment. But before that, Checkers, what are you up to?
Absolutely. So seeing this other lobster creature kind of trying to get swarmed around by the people of the caravan, by Selv, sort of keeping it from moving around. Do I get a sense that this thing is afraid, or is it angry, or what is the general vibe of this?
So it is like many of the monsters of this world, where they are... Rabid dog is a little bit easy, but almost nonsensically aggressive. Certainly sometimes they'll retreat, but a lot of times they won't, and sometimes it seems like they're there just to murder. Like, it makes no evolutionary sense for some of them, and this is a clear example of one of those chaotic monsters that just erupt. So even as it is struggling, even it is outnumbered, it is clearly still filled with malice and intent to do harm.
Sounds good. So as it's distracted, Checkers is going to move closer towards this lobster thing and leap up onto its head now that it has an opening. He's going to try and grab on to the sort of eye stalks that are coming off of this thing and just grab onto them just like, yeah! As Checkers, the small frogman, is leapt on top of the lobster and is trying to just corral it or sort of steer it away from the others.
Cool. And this is the one by the caravan, correct?
Yes, that's correct. The one that Selv has masterfully stunned or
excellent
slowed down.
Perfect. Cass, again, you see like an opening has been made here, and you think that like if I hit him just right, I can end this fight.
Mm-hmm. And I thought I'd have to fight this thing myself. Kascorin takes the pail in his hand and throws it to the side. In that same fluid motion, he makes a strong fist, and the pail stops in midair. He rears back with his hand and flings the pail telekinetically towards the lobster, casting Catapult. The pail crumples against the lobster's head, dealing massive damage. And this lobster is rendered unconscious from just the sheer impact of this metal bucket.
It actually, again, it cracks the carapace of this thing as you run up, keep bobbing, darting, weaving. And again, you knew to capitalize exactly on that moment, exactly in that way. And it does not go unconscious. It is slain. You hit it just hard enough and just the right way where there's a crack right on kind of its gross, buggish forehead that spreads, and you can see it just kind of wobble a little bit, making one last inhuman noise, and then collapse down into the water.
Hi everyone, it's Sophie, here with the mid-roll. We hope you've been enjoying this episode so far. It's been a long journey for us to get to this point, but we're so excited for you to be able to join us at our table. If you want to know more about the players and characters, head on over to recklessattack.com for character sheets, lore, art, and even hand-drawn world maps by our very own Dungeon Master. Don't forget to follow us on social media too. We're on Twitter at reckless_attack and Instagram at recklessattackpodcast. And finally, if you want to support the show, check out patreon.com/recklessattack. We have a lot of fun content planned for when we get into our recording rhythm, but starting this week, patrons who join will be mentioned here in the middle of each episode. Special shout out to Eric R., one of our good friends who gave us a lot, and I mean pages, of very helpful feedback. Thank you so much, Eric. You're a rock star. I think that's it for me. Let's get back to the episode.
Val, you see that there is still one being kind of like steered and jockeyed by two of your guild members. What do you do?
She had been like running full sprint towards Cass, and she kind of like slides and like kind of does like a sliding tackle because she can't stop in what I'm assuming is kind of muddy, wet grass.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And so we'll then just like do that horrible soccer football drill where you have to do like a push-up and then start running full sprint again back towards Selv and Sea Checkers riding this thing, and it's just like, what is happening? I mean, okay.
And claws are like still reaching back, trying to get at the strange little frog man, but it just can't quite have the flexibility to get to him.
She not probably being able to get super close to it will again grab her holy symbol and just kind of whisper to herself, like, may you find the truths you seek, and cast Sacred Flame. It is still that brilliant blue color, but instead of like a crystalline shard, it is just like a little small fireball that shoots out from her hand and finds its target.
Excellent. And like hits it much in the same way as you clearly hit a impactful blow that takes its attention and leaves an opening for your teammates. Selv and Checkers, you guys see this happening. You know that you have a moment. What do either of the two of you do?
Selv actually pulls the quarterstaff a little bit closer to him and pulls that lobster creature a little bit closer, and then puts his back to him and spins around. He pulls on his quarterstaff, freeing it, and right at the same time his tail sweeps the legs of the lobster, and it kind of sends it tipping over backwards, but not quite falling.
And Checkers is going to take this opportunity to leap off of it and do a quick acrobatic roll away from the lobster, just in time to see the lobster fall from Selv's attack.
Excellent. And first of all, cook a combo. Second, you certainly would have an opportunity to roll off and then strike one more time. Again, you see that this thing is totally helpless.
As this lobster is sort of being thrashed around by Selv and is on the brink of falling over, Checkers sees it teetering and is going to conjure up a rock. This is the cantrip Magic Stone. And the rock doesn't look like a normal rock. It looks like sort of this smooth pond rock with a small frog face scrawled on it in crayon.
Yeah.
And he's just going to hurl it at the side of this lobster's head, giving it the momentum that it needs to fall over on its side.
Yes. You are able to successfully launch this. You hit this thing and just bam! There's a big crack and a thud as this thing once again falls down. You have dispatched both of these creatures relatively quickly. Within a few moments, again, you see some other guards kind of run up, do a similar kind of look around, make sure everyone's okay. There's a lot of chatter that comes up of people asking, oh, are you okay? People checking on children, that kind of thing. The braying of a lonely baby donkey off to the side. Eventually, you see a very hardy looking dwarf jog up to you guys from seemingly way up, into the caravan. He has a natural russet skin color, which is made even deeper with kind of the hours that he spends out on the trails. He's carrying a pike and shield, has a big, bushy dwarven beard and huge, bushy eyebrows that cover most of his face, kind of save for a big scar running from lip to his left eye, or almost to his left eye. And this is Brannar Bronze Mace. He is one of the two main trail masters here on this particular caravan. He's a member of the Caravan Guild because these things have to be pretty well organized. He goes up to his fellow dwarf, and obviously any of you can also be there, and he would be talking to any and all of you.
I would like to note that Val would have been like, everybody okay? You good? You good? Well, walking like pretty swiftly backwards towards Hoti of like, you're good? You good? You need me? And she'll like take a step forward if someone's like, oh, well, maybe. Oh, you're good? Nope. Okay. All right. Still going back to my donkey.
Checkers would pick up a nearby stick and just go over and begin to poke the dead lobster in the head. And he just spends like a good 2 minutes doing that. Like, you dead? You dead? All right, good.
And that is why Checkers is a survivor. He makes sure.
The double tap.
And so again, Brannar Bronze Mace comes up to you, Cass, and again, anyone else. Just says, oh, well done. These damn roads are getting weaker every time we go by, I'm sure of it. But I even checked that place out myself. I'm so sorry. I thought it was totally clear. It must have been a cave or some nonsense under there.
Brannar, that was too close. We got to be more careful next time. But
he extends his hand and is like, again, Brannar, sorry, what was... I recognize you. You're some guilders. He looks down at your, kind of the pin insignia that is presumably on your chest. And your guilders.
It's all right. We're with the Golden Tree.
Okay.
My name's Kascorin, Selv, Valeska, and Checkers.
Selv kind of gives a bow.
We appreciate it. Again, I know you guys were hired to do this job, but doesn't mean that I don't appreciate when it's done well. He kind of looks around and sees people picking up, even in the short commotion, there was a lot of, wagons that have been disrupted, that kind of thing. And he looks around and is like, all right, now seems as good a time as any to take a break for the night. Suns are going down. We'll make sure to post a guard around this, water here.
Be sure to triple check.
And you hear voices going in all directions saying, we're pulling over. Thank you all again. I always like a good reputable guilder when we're out on the runic roads as much as possible. And let us know if you need anything. We'll make sure to get you and everyone else back on the way.
Once everything has calmed down, Val will take Hoti back to the wagon, and she will pull out a third and different journal and then go up to the dead lobsters and start drawing them and sketching them and poking around with them and just like basically starting to study and do probably equivalent to like an autopsy, but mostly seeing like how they work. And she might see if she can get Checker's help, like cracking it open.
Yeah, and Etris is there too. He didn't have quite the time to react in the last battle. But he comes down and is like, oh, well, do you know what these things are? It looks like it's kind of like a weird little crawfish kind of deal, but much bigger. That's not how they make them back home. He will be happy to help just like aggressively crack this thing open and also be looking with you for any useful biles or visceras or what have you.
Val might not agree with his version of the scientific method, but he gets results.
Get your hands dirty. He really relishes the opportunity to do so. But
while they're doing that, Selv is going to, he'll help set up for the night, and then he takes out a flute and kind of begins playing. It's something that you've seen him do a bunch of times in the evening, although this time you get the impression it is to partially cover up the sound of cracking shell and squishing insides moving around.
Everyone's giving you plenty of berth. It's kind of like a finders, keepers, dibs kind of thing where it's like, okay, they're clearly doing some stuff over there and everyone's happy to give you the berth and certainly appreciates the flute music that's lightly drowning things out.
And Checkers would be the first person to try and answer the question, should we really be eating these monsters?
Yep,
The
that makes
answer is
sense.
yes. Because as this autopsy is going on, he's definitely like cracked open one of the claws and it's just like,
Don't forget to try it cooked for science purposes, Checkers.
well, that wasn't bad, but maybe if I try a different part.
Some dark meat.
Right.
Kascorin is actually going with Braynar and some of the other watch to check the perimeter of the lake, make sure that the clearing is actually secure for the night.
Yeah.
And he's like going around saying like, keep an eye on the tree line over there. There could be something coming from that direction. And it's kind of just giving some tips.
Perfect. And you got the feeling kind of throughout that, okay, this is a pretty reputable, well-run caravan, but it's big. There's a lot of people going in and out.
There's a lot of space to cover.
A lot of space to cover, and there's only so much you can do out in the wilderness, even with the mysterious protections of the runic roads. There's always opportunities to shore up things, to work together, to plot things out based on the individual terrains and that kind of stuff. You guys have now settled all along the road. Everyone has pulled over. You see this really lovely picture of fires and torches lighting the way all the way down this long, ancient road.
Val would definitely ask if Checkers is exhibiting any symptoms of food poisoning after eating
I
monsters.
think that's very wise. Or food poisoning or worse.
Yes. Just double checking. I feel like part of the night, she, Checkers, and Etris would probably be talking over all of their findings.
It didn't really taste that good, but I don't feel bad. Maybe you should try it.
Val will cook it and she will try some of the meat.
Selv will come up to Valeska and
Without too many details, what did you find out about those creatures?
I feel like this is something that Selv has had to clarify several times when he's asked Val a question.
Should have boundaries.
Yeah. Because Val would have just reiterated the probably at least hour-long conversation she, Checkers, and Etris just had, and would have started basically using her journal as a PowerPoint to tell Selv every single detail about this lobster thing. But because he knows not to tell her to keep it short.
Yep.
Kascorin would have gotten here during the very start of the conversation about the lobsters, and then after hearing you guys just going back and forth super fast and all just going over his head, he leaves and just goes to brush Hody for a good while. And he comes back so, can we eat them?
Yes. Kascorin, you'll be fine. I don't have your constitution.
He goes to take a
Dwarven
couple
resilience.
of grabs a couple bits of lobster that's been harvested from these creatures, starts putting them on a stick and making a couple of those.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Lobster kebabs.
Yeah, classic.
Valeska will tell Selv, yeah, they probably do interact just like their smaller counterparts of a crawfish, where there's probably some type of underground burrow or cave in that water source. And when we were all there, we disturbed it.
So there could be more of them.
There could be, but we've been here for a while. I don't necessarily expect them. We're going to take watch, but I would like to note there was a very large adrenal gland, which probably indicates the reasoning behind their bloodthirsty rage.
It's real big, y'all. It's great. I love it. And
Etris probably
is
has
literally
it.
just still sitting on the wagon and hanging out. And he's literally holding the adrenal gland in one of his hands. You want to see it? It's real interesting texture. I'm not going to say it's a good texture, but it is interesting.
Oh, and you should have smelt it when we first picked it up.
Ooh.
I
I think
not
Hody
have
needs
any
another
of those.
brushing. Do you want to?
So,
Thank you for the information.
you guys...
As always,
Go ahead.
please note, I have at least 50 pages more of it.
So noted.
and then Selv will bow and go, I guess, take round 2 of brushing Hody.
Hody, as far as this donkey is concerned, can never be brushed enough. The merriment continues. You eat some mixture of weird crawfish, lobster creature, or field rations, depending on how lucky you're
Selv will
feeling.
go with the field rations.
That was kind of the vibe I was getting. You guys are settling down for the night. I'll ask the very first question of every good D&D campaign. What's the order you guys are taking watches?
Kascorin can take the first watch since he's helped set up some of the perimeter already. He kind of knows what to look for, so he's perfectly fine taking that first shift.
Cool.
Excellent. Number 2?
Val can go.
Yeah, I'll take third.
Selv will go last.
So everyone beds down for the night. These are long days, and you have had many long days. Cass, what does it look like when you are on watch? Are you out walking around? Are you hunkering down to your guys' kind of specific wagon? Are you keeping an eye on the water? What are you doing?
So previously, Kascorin did not have a chance to put his armor on. They were just relaxing in the hot sun. But now that he is officially on watch, he has his heavy mail armor on him. Cool. He has his two-handed maul just kind of in a holster on his back. He is ready for battle at a moment's notice. He is actually taking a patrol around the perimeter of this camp. He's walking around, partly to make sure that there's nothing out there, partly to also check on the guards that are watching. Make sure none of them are slacking off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you, both from having traveled in this particular caravan and be fairly world savvy, relatively speaking, a lot of them are in your situation where you're like, okay, I have military or armed training or whatever skills, and I'd like a discount on my caravan fee. So sure, I'll work for you for however long it takes me to get there. Bolstering the ranks of the few kind of full-time guards that are there. No one's like useless.
I don't need their A game, but I do need their like C to B game after we've already had a scare today.
You see a couple like C-. Are you dispensing bits and bobbles of like, stand up straight?
Yeah, I was like,
what are you doing?
Up and at him, soldier. And I kind of like nudge one that seems to be nodding off a little bit after a long day in the caravan. I stand in front of him. I put my hand on his shoulder. Listen up, son. There are families behind you counting on you to keep them safe. You have to be on your best behavior. And if you can't keep your eyes open, I'm going to have to take you off and find someone else who can do your job.
He like looks like you totally took him by surprise. He's just like, not only was this person nodding off, but also it's like, whoa, this dude is taking it very seriously. But he is correct. So I'm
not mad, son. I'm just disappointed.
Oh, and it's just, you can see his heart break just a little bit. Yeah. You're right. I'm sorry. Long day. We're almost there, and
it's right, soldier. Everyone has them.
Yeah, and you see him stand up a little bit straighter. So as you are walking around, not straying too far, but trying to just shore up this little area, you are someone who is very familiar with patrols and with watches and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And there's this weird moment where like no one is around, and it's not isolated or supernatural. It's just this weird moment in time that your trained eye and sense is just like, wait a second, am I the only one? Huh? And like everyone's looking a bunch of different ways. And just on the outskirts of your dark vision, you see a quick glint of metal. And you see a smallish humanoid woman standing there just on the outskirts of your vision, and she's kind of hard to make out. She seems like she blends in with the trees. She has this greenish dark brown skin and this strange flowing hair that you can't quite, it's not natural, but you can't quite figure out what it is. And you realize that glint that you saw it's like she's wearing some sort of semi-ornate dress made out of little small circles of something. This, whatever it is, creature, person, mortal, monster, you don't know, looks at you, and you immediately have that weird moment where two people across a room make direct eye contact and know they're looking at each other. This thing reaches out its hand and beckons you in. You feel a supernatural push, but it's not one that sets your adventuring or your guilder senses off, like you're not like, oh God, I'm being mind controlled.
Right.
But what this is a supernatural push that you have felt a couple of times, but very rarely, and you haven't felt kind of this strongly in a little while.
At this point, I make a connection with her, and I am like trying to almost, part of me is like trying to say, excuse me, miss, are you lost? Part of me is trying to raise the alarm, but those words just get stuck in my throat as I am transfixed.
It is as if your patron, who you know to be the Eternal Citadel, is suggesting or influencing you or something.
You're being voluntold.
That you are being, that is perfect. You're being voluntold to walk into the woods.
I try to take one last look to the camp to see the lights to make sure everything's okay, but at this point I can't even turn my head. It's just one step in front of the other towards this woman.
And as Cass walks into the woods and fades from the light of the fires and torches, anyone who is watching would see, then the patrols have come back. No big deal, almost like on schedule. And Cass fades into the forest, quickly swallowed up by the darkness. And that's where we'll end our episode for this week, everyone.
Cass, no!
Do I die in the first episode? Is that what
Happy
happens?
first episode, everyone.
No, but you come back as a doppelganger.
Right, yeah.
Keep listening. We'll see you all next week on Reckless Attack.
Woo! If you love Reckless Attack, you'll love the people who helped us make it possible.
Our logo artist, Maggie Pearson, character artist, Borg Cinnabon, and our website designer, Donnie Chung, put together all the visuals you see for our podcast.
We have some fantastic music, too. Our opening and closing theme was written by Chicago-based composer Megan Carnes. We also used the works of Kevin MacLeod and Michael Gelfie for our background music, and appreciate all the wonderful content they've put on the internet. You can find all of their social media links and more info about them on our website, recklessattack.com. See y'all next time.